John Routh. He is the executive director of the Sports Hall of Fame and Museum. Friend of the program. But in a different life, Crowder, he was one of the most successful mascots in South Florida history. And for me, he was most famously Sebastian the Ibis at when I was there in the late 80s, early 90s. But we all saw what Conor McGregor did to Bernie at the Heat game Friday night. And while John never played Bernie, he did play Bernice, Bernie's girlfriend. So we thought we'd get some insight. Hello, John.
Hello, Mark. How are you?
We're good. What did you make? We want stories, but what did you make of the Heat promotion that sees Conor McGregor punch out Bernie during an NBA Finals game at home?
Yeah, well, I think we should call it. Every major event in sports has a name, like the Hail Flutie or the Immaculate Reception. This was the Bernie beating. It should be the name of it. But the first thing I want to know is, why was Conor McGregor wearing pajamas? I mean, he looked more like Hugh Hefner than a boxer out there on the floor. But no, I feel for Bernie. I hope tonight Rocky, the Denver Nuggets mascot, will show some support, some mascot support, and come out with some kind of a routine, maybe beat up Conor McGregor tonight. That would be nice. Considering Rocky is the highest paid mascot in the NBA, it might be good to get a little something back to Bernie.
Oh, wait a second. So Lana looks surprised there. I thought everyone knew this, but the Nuggets mascot is reported to make $650,000 a year. Is that correct?
Approximately, yeah. Somewhere right in there. A little bit more than the chicken feed I got.
Why do you think he gets so much money compared to other mascots?
Well, he's been there for about 30 years. No, he's a great mascot. He really is good. He does some really wild and crazy things. The costume is a little bit smaller than Bernie, so he's able to do a lot more as far as being able to dunk. And I think he used to slide down the stairs on a what would you, toboggan type thing. And so he's just done crazy things. And the guy has been there for about 30 years. So over the years, he's just gotten better and better, and they paid him more and more.
And John, speaking of the things they do, the skits, whatever you want to call them, you being a part of it with Bernie, like, how much is off the cuff and how much is choreographed? Because it seems as if these mascots aren't ready to get punched in their damn face.
Well, yeah, I mean, most of it, the skits are usually choreographed, but obviously something went real wrong the other night on this one. I got a feeling that, the first punch was pretty high on the head, and I think that was supposed to be. I think he probably got hurt on that second punch, which might have just been right smack into his jaw. But some of the routines are choreographed. I used to do a Rocky routine. Actually, I had a very similar incident about 30 some odd years ago in Sumter, South Carolina, of all places. I was performing as the Miami Maniac for a Sumter Braves minor league game, and I did a Rocky routine where I'd come out, and the Rocky music's playing, and I'd do one-arm push-ups, and then I would go over towards the umpire, and I would, fake like I'm going to punch the umpire, but I would let him punch me, and I'd fall down, and then one of the back girls would come out and revive me. Little politically incorrect nowadays, probably couldn't do that, but right. The umpire was supposed to hit He was supposed to hit the end of the snout, and I was going to spin around, but he came up underneath and caught my chin, and it didn't knock me out, but I was woozy for about 3 or 4 innings after that. So, sometimes you plan these things, and we had a routine here at Mark Light where my roommate was dressed as we were doing a Snoopy versus the Red Baron routine, and we were on mopeds, and my roommate at the time didn't chin strap. He was dressed as Sebastian, and he didn't do the chin strap. And as he's riding on his moped, the head moved around. He couldn't see, and he ran into the umpire at second base. The crowd loved it. It was not part of the routine, but that was the only thing everybody remembered. So sometimes the routines go a little haywire.
But what I would imagine it's bad form, though, just in general, to have the home mascot getting punched out by someone who doesn't have any affiliation with the team during a home game in the finals, right? Like, it was flawed from the beginning.
Yeah, because you don't want to hurt your own mascot in front of your own fans. Because there are a lot of kids there that look up to Bernie and love Bernie, and to have him being punched out on the, even if it is for a promotion for some kind of a spray or whatever it was. You don't want to do it in front of your own fans, and occasionally you can be shown up by a fan or sometimes like Charles Barkley used to punch out. Actually, he used to punch out Rocky, the Denver mascot, all the time. But that was a skit with a player, and everybody knew it was pre-planned. But that thing Saturday night, Bernie being dragged off was not a good look for a mascot.
And John, I would say it's bigger than Bernie. I don't know, but. Who has that veto power? Like, was there any situations you were in where somebody had a plan and you said, you know what, I don't think that's a great idea?
Well, like I said, when I was with the Marlins, it's more of a corporate thing. So you kind of have to do certain things. The only time I can remember where I totally refused something was I'd been out on the field as Billy the Marlin on a Sunday. We had, they always had the little league teams that would parade out in the outfield. And I'd been out there for 45 minutes or more on a hot Sunday afternoon. And I was literally about to pass out. And so I went into the locker room, and the marketing person came in there. You've got to get back out on the field. We've got a first pitch, and you've got to get pictures of the sponsors. And I basically said a few words that I probably shouldn't have because I was about to pass out. So, but yeah, some of the routines you have to do. Of course, I remember one time they told me at the last minute, guess who's here tonight? Charo. Go out on the field and dance with Charo. I didn't want to dance. She was about 75 years old, and she wasn't the Charo of 1968.
I think she's still alive. I think I learned this the other night that Charo is still alive.
She is, and she was coochie and all over the field. A lot of plastic surgery.
There's no way Solana and Crowder know coochie Charo. Solana, do you know Charo?
I was trying to Google it before you called me out.
Oh, I'm sorry. She. No, her spouse is dead. She's alive.
I see Charo. I think I got.
You know who Charo is?
I didn't until I Googled, but I'm looking at a younger picture of Charo. I don't know the Charo y'all know.
Coochie. Yeah, she was the coochie girl. So, did you dance with Charo?
I danced with Charo.
Yeah, good for you.
I can put that on a resume. I don't know what it'll get me, but
what is the word? John Routh is with us. He is a legendary mascot in the annals of South Florida history. Sebastian the Ibis, when he got detained in Tallahassee. I mean, everyone knows that. And now he's the executive director at the Sports Hall of Fame and Museum. What do you have a moment that is like your single worst moment as a mascot where, I don't know, whether the stunt went awry or you agreed to do, a mascot appearance at some rodeo and you were dressed as a bull or a cow, and the moment you got there, you knew it was a bad decision. Like, do you have any stories like that?
Oh, if I think back in my weird memory, I probably could come up with something. I mean, there were a lot of appearances sometimes, particularly with the Marlins, like in 1998, after the team had been dismantled, where I'd go to a grocery store and have to stand in the frozen food section for an hour and a half, and nobody would show up other than people were coming in to shop and could care less that Billy the Marlin was standing there. There were a few occasions like that.
Like Plague's
certainly there were injuries.
White Castle story. like sometimes you just, because they think it's a big deal, and then you're standing there and the lady's like, "Excuse me, I'm trying to get to the Gortons. Can you get out of my way?"
Yeah, I mean, there were a lot of appearances like that, but I did some routines certainly that I got injured over the years. I've had 6 knee surgeries, and of course got shot in the face, and other different wonderful occasions that have. My motto was sacrifice the body for the laugh, and unfortunately now I'm paying for it.
I know the story, but Solana and Crowder look very confused at the shot in the face comment. So go ahead.
I need a little info, John. Said that too smooth.
Tell the story.
The night before the 1992 national championship game in New Orleans, walking down Bourbon Street, and with the cheerleaders and the Sensations and a bunch of other folks. And out of nowhere, bullet came, hit me right next to my temple, entered under the skin, grazed my shoulder. And so the cop walks up and says, "We got our first one." I said, "First one what?" He goes, "Gunshot victim." I went, "What?" And so apparently a lot of the gangs would get on their roofs for New Year's Eve and shoot towards the French Quarter. And I was the first victim that night. And of course, the next night was the national championship game, Miami versus Alabama. So I had a bandage on my face prior to the game, walking around on the field. And, Bob Greasy was doing the game for ABC. And Bob had done some games at Marklight Stadium to start his broadcasting career. So I'd gotten to know him. So he, comes up, we're talking, and a couple of reporters gathered around, and one of the reporters said, "Well, you're not going to work tonight's game, are you?" I said, "It's going to take a hell of a lot more than a bullet hole in the head to keep me out of this game."
That's a mascot.
There
You
it
got
is.
Bernie going to an ER with one punch. John Routh is surviving a gunshot to the face. I
Pulled the
mean,
bullet out itself.
that's right. He ate it with his beak. He pulled the bullet out, twisted the beak, and went about his business. What do you do when you encounter an overzealous or unruly fan that just, they want to show their machismo by trying to, get in the grill of the mascot?
Well, I almost died opening day of 1993 with the Marlins. I was in the upper deck directly behind home plate. And, you have a bodyguard. Well, you're not supposed to call him a bodyguard. It's the wrangler or your assistant, but essentially he was a bodyguard. Chris, who's now a police officer, was mine. And you know how the upper deck at Pro Player Stadium, you kind of came out and then it went down maybe 4 or 5 rows and everybody else was up above you. So I walked down right to the edge and was getting the crowd, cheering. And this guy had a few beers in him, came off. He was in the aisle seat and he literally picked me up and I was halfway over the railing when Chris grabbed him from behind and grabbed me and pulled me back. Of course, Chris the Marlins were like, "You can't manhandle our fans." And we're like, "He almost killed me." So we got through that one. But the worst was always kids. I used to worry more about getting kicked in the groin by a 5-year-old than I was worried about getting punched by a professional boxer. But sometimes I used to have some kids that would bug me at Marklight, and the parents would kind of walk in the gate and go, "Okay, there's the maniac. Go play with him for 6 innings." And so they'd be chasing me around the field, and I used to have this trick. I'm telling stories now. I hope nobody's listening, but I used to have this trick where I would get one of my championship rings and put it inside I was more formal, wear gloves on my hands, and so I'd put the ring on the inside, but I'd turn the stone towards like my palm side, and I'd walk over and I'd pat the kid who was giving me a hard time on the head, basically slapping him in the top of the head with a ring. And of course, the kid's screaming, going, "Ow, ow, ow!" And everybody's going, "What's wrong? He's patting you on the head." But I was slapping him upside the head.
Great story.
It's genius.
It is genius. Dude, like when the guy's holding you over the bleachers and it's an adult, do you ever break character? Hey, you mother bleeper!
Occasionally,
or do you not talk and you stay in character?
No, you break character occasionally. I remember there was one time where we did a skit at the Penn State game in the Orange Bowl, and we actually had helicopters come in and people rappelled down because we'd had a couple of cheerleaders dressed as Penn State fans and tied Sebastian up on the field. And while I'm laying there on the field and waiting for the helicopter and the guys to rappel down, from Miami-Dade Rescue. That's another thing we couldn't do nowadays because literally the helicopter was below the lights at the Orange Bowl.
Everything went back in the day.
If something happened, 80,000 people could have gotten killed.
Right.
But while I'm laying there on the ground, this kid comes running out of the stands thinking it's real and is trying to untie me. And I'm yelling, get out the there were a few words that I think you heard me.
Jackass. I'm in the middle of a skit here. Oh my God. I can talk about this stuff forever, but we're out of time again. I always say we got to have John Routh
Oh
on
my
again
goodness.
with more stories because he's got great stories. So
This is
we'll have
great.
you on again, John. We appreciate it.
I would love to. Just want to remind Crowder about, Albert and his snout. So don't forget that one.
I got you, bro.
I love the brethren, the mascot brethren, John, where maybe the Nuggets mascot does a little something in honor of Bernie tonight.
Yeah, I mean, it's made so much national news. He would be wrong not to do something. Even out of fun of trying to make fun of Bernie. I think it would be great.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. It would be fun to acknowledge it somehow. John Routh, he is the executive director at the Sports Hall of Fame and Museum and a legendary mascot in South Florida. Thank you, John.
Thank you, Mark. Hope to see you at Titanic someday.